Hello, I'm going to present a short summary of our research paper, which is entitled Communicative Approach to Teach English Language, and our supervisor, Dr. Youssef TAMER. Our table of content consists of introduction, definition of TEFL, communicative approach, communicative functions in learning English language, learning language from social context, the role of contemporary elements in communication competence, examples and activities in communicative approach, classroom activities, writing skills, reading skills, and finally conclusion. I'll focus only on three elements in table of content. I will deal with communicative approach, learning language from social context, and finally reading skill as an activity in communicative approach. Well, communicative language teaching takes a pragmatic or performance-based approach to learning. Its goal is to promote the development of real-life language skills by engaging the learner in contextualized, meaningful, and communicative-oriented learning tasks. It recognizes the wide range of factors such as learner ability and motivation, teacher effectiveness, and methodology that contribute to success in foreign language learning. So, communicative approach is based on the idea that learning language successfully comes through having to communicate real meaning. When learners are involved in real communication, their natural strategies for language acquisition will be used, and this will allow them to learn the primary functions of language use. Communicative method takes many various forms and uses contemporary elements that stresses the importance of learning and exchange information. First one is knowing how to use language for a range of different purposes and functions. Second, knowing how to vary our use of language according to the setting and the participant means to know when you have to use formal and informal speech, or when to use language appropriately for writing as opposed to spoken communication. Third, knowing how to produce and understand different types of texts. And finally, knowing how to maintain knowledge of communication despite having limitations in one's language knowledge. This is a little and a short definition of communicative approach. I will move now to the second headline, which is learning language from social context. The interaction between language learning and social development plays an essential role in social context. When young children build skills in processing spoken language, they also become proficient at allocating their social attention. If we look in our daily life, we will find that everything we do and learn takes place in social context. Our interaction with others reflects our understanding to the world. This idea based heavily on the work of the Russian and psychologist Lev Vygotsky, whose theory of learning has been developed and put into practice in schools by many other teachers and researchers in other countries. Vygotsky called attention to the ways in which social environment influence this learning process. He proposed the idea that learning language and that interaction between learning and development of children have with peers as well as with adults and teachers. That social interaction develop language which supports thinking, and they provide feedback and assistance that support ongoing learning. In a variety of ways, that social interaction formed the basis of the understanding that eventually became internalized in the individual. The classroom teacher plays a key role in shaping the social interaction. When she or he carefully assesses students' current understanding and creates situations that allow students to grow further, this is the notion of teaching as assisted performance. So, the effectiveness of learning in social context is more beneficial for the student in terms of acquiring new information and more knowledge about language. When working in groups and join productive activities with teachers and make decisions about selecting topics, that kind of activities helps the student to be more encouraged and socialized. Further, it gives them the ability to go through high levels of experiences. For that reason, teachers will recognize that when students work collaboratively to assist one another and take on expert roles, their learning will be strengthened and reinforced. That interaction between the students and teachers create a big role in being social and be more seek to learn. So, language it rests on the same underlying cognitive and social skills that lead students to quality things and show things to the other peoples declaratively and informatively. I will move to the reading activity. Reading is another activity in language teaching which plays an essential role in communicative approach. Students practice this method in order to gain knowledge. Reading is not just to be in touch with textbooks. Teachers or guidance in that side have to give instructions to students to make them able to discuss and narrate, negotiate, describe, and also elaborate and judge. Practice of reading activity makes the reader to be more lively the pleasure of knowledge and new information that can use in everyday life. Means that reading enhanced the interaction between the reader and textbooks. It also increased learners' knowledge of language features and their control of reading strategies. Further, it improved their comprehension skills and acquiring the grammatical rules of sentences. There are many different types of reading. For example, intensive and extensive reading, reading faster, and assisting reading. In intensive reading is the grammar translation approach where the teacher works with the learners using the first language to explain the meaning of a text sentence by sentence on used on suitable text and following useful principles. Intensive reading may also have another goal, and that is to determine what language features will get attention in the course. That is, the language features that are focused on in each text became the language syllabus for the course. This has several positive aspects. First, the language features are set in the communicative context of a text. Then the text can be used to show how the language features contribute to the communicative purpose of the text, and this can be a good preparation for subsequent writing activities. Extensive reading is totally different from intensive reading. It is a form of learning language from meaning focused input. During extensive reading, learners should be interested in what they are reading and should be reading with their attention on the meaning of the text rather than on the learning the language features of the text. In an extensive reading program, reading should be the main activity and other activities should occupy only a very small proportion of the time. Reading faster involves the learners reading texts that are well within their language knowledge. That is, they contain no unknown vocabulary or grammatical features. The reading of each text is timed, and their speed and comprehension scores and recorded on graphs so that learners can easily see their progress and are encouraged to increase their reading speed. Assessing reading. There are several reasons for assessing reading and the skills and knowledge that are involved in reading. They include assessing to encourage learning, assessing to monitor progress and provide feedback, assessing to diagnose problems, assessing to measure proficiency. The same form of assessment might be used for a variety of goals. This is like short presentation about my part in the final paper. Thank you for your attention.